Hello and welcome to Tia's Stories of Life. I know it's been a while since the last time I've made a video. It's been, oh my God, almost a year now. But as many of you know, YouTube has made many changes, and so it makes it a little more difficult for content creators. And so for myself, I have been tasked with changing the format of my videos, because I did a lot of videos with just video clips, and so that has to change. So I do have a new video, a new channel. It's called Cryptoflifetales, and I plan to start posting videos on that channel. I'll leave the description or the link in the description box. So I will, for the next month or so, post videos on this channel as well. But it's my plan to definitely, before the year ends, to just post all content on the True Life Tales channel. And on that channel, the format will be about the same. I'll still have video clips in the video, and I'll give my opinion. But yeah, it just needs to switch over to a new channel because I don't feel like going through fighting with YouTube about various videos and things of that nature. So I'll just start new. So let's talk about why we're here tonight, and that's the update on the Crystal Rodgers case. There's been a recent arrest in the case of Crystal Rodgers' disappearance. The suspect's name is Joseph Lawson, and this is not the first time Lawson's name came up. His name initially came up during the interrogation of Brooks Hulk, who is Crystal Rodgers' ex. So, during this interrogation, which was the first interrogation Brooks had with the police in Nelson County, Brooks was questioned about the day of Crystal's disappearance, and that night Brooks had got a late night call from Steve Lawson. Now, when I saw this name Steve Lawson, I was like, oh, is this a typo? Or is this really a different name? Well, apparently Steve Lawson is the name of the suspect, Joseph Lawson's dad. So Brooks Hawk had got a call from Steve, Joseph's dad. And in that call, which Brooks was asked about by the detective, like, why did Steve call you that late at night? And Brooks claimed that Steve called to ask him about a question about some rental property. And then Brooks goes on to say, oh, I just couldn't remember at first, but yeah, it was about some rental property. And I told Steve that I had to call him back because I needed to talk to Crystal. And then I would call him back. So apparently Brooks had told the detective that Crystal, when he got the call, Crystal was sitting next to him in his truck. So then the detective was like, well, if Crystal was sitting next to you, why did you tell Steve that you were going to call her and then call him back? Which Brooks didn't have an answer. So the article goes on to say that they don't know if the person arrested was, if it was Joseph or Steve. And so that makes it more confusing. Assuming that it's Joseph. I mean, you would think that the police would know. They did fingerprints. They should be able to pull up the guy's name just by doing that, especially if he had priors. Now, if he didn't have priors, it might be a little bit more tricky, but it shouldn't be that difficult. So Yeah, let's dig more into the case to see if maybe we can figure it out.
The Crystal Rodgers case after 8 long years for the family and people of Bardstown. It's our top story right now at noon. A Nelson County man was arrested in connection to the Crystal Rodgers disappearance. 32-year-old Joseph Lawson, that's him right there on your screen. He's facing multiple charges. This is the first arrest and charges that we've seen in any of the 5 unsolved Bardstown cases. His charges are specifically tying him to Crystal Rodgers' case. Now, Crystal disappeared over 4th of July weekend back in 2015. Her father, Tommy Ballard, later found her car along the Bluegrass Parkway. Inside, he found her keys, cell phone, and purse. Rodgers had been presumed dead since October of 2015. And since then, Rodgers' family, multiple law enforcement agencies, and many within the Nelson County community have worked endlessly to find answers. Now, what are those people working endlessly to find answers? Shay McAllister, you're joining us now live, of course, right here in the studio to help us break down this new development.
Yeah, so I think first let's get right to the charges so we know exactly what we're dealing with here. So the first charge is conspiracy to commit murder. This is in connection to an incident on 4th of July weekend, 2015. Important to note that is the very weekend that Crystal Rodgers was reported missing, the last time anyone saw her alive. Some of the details we learned in the court documents, which we just got from the Nelson County Courthouse this morning, is Lawson's accused of agreeing to aid in the planning or commission of a crime intentionally causing the death of another person. He has pleaded not guilty to that one. The second charge in this case, tampering with physical evidence. Again, it's in connection to an incident on 4th of July weekend, which is the big weekend in this case for when she was reported missing. This one breaks down to mean that he is accused of destroying, mutilating, concealing, or removing or altering physical evidence in the case. We have no idea what that evidence could be. The details of these indictments are sealed. So really, we just know the details of the charges, not what they actually mean. Here's what we know about the timeline. So this indictment was filed in June of 2023. That is actually when the grand jury came back with the indictment earlier this summer. The arrest warrant was signed and executed in August, and he was just now arraigned in court yesterday. And when we say in court, we mean it loosely because he was actually in a hospital bed. Take a look.
Like the formal reading of the indictment has been effected. The court's going to enter pleas of not guilty in both cases. The court is going to pursue.
We already told you that he has pleaded not guilty in both of these cases. You see him right there in the hospital bed. The only time I heard him talk while listening to this video from yesterday is when he was asked his birthday to confirm his identity, and he said, "Yes, sir, that's my birthday, that's it." Haley, they set another court date for the end of October.
Next is Nick Mudd of the Mudd Legal Group. He's also a former assistant Jefferson County Commonwealth's attorney in the Violent Crimes Unit. So, Nick, Lawson comes out of the blue to us, a name we'd never seen before, not talked about. The charge conspiracy, what is that telling us right off the bat?
It's a charge that's not very utilized in state court, but it tells us right off the bat that there's another person involved. If you look at the statute, look at the law on it, that law implicates more than one person. So that means there's probably charges coming for someone else in the future.
I wouldn't have been surprised today if the FBI swept in there and made more arrests. That did not happen. But do you think that's how this case is going to progress now? I mean, how do you see it play out as a former prosecutor?
It's hard to tell without looking at the discovery, which is the evidence in the case. That will be forthcoming. I think there will be a question of whether or not that will be publicly available or not. But going forward, I think that will indicate who or what other person was involved. And certainly the crime of criminal conspiracy with any charge lends itself to an additional person being charged. So going forward, it wouldn't surprise me if more people are charged involved in this.
You say investigating cold cases is very hard because of the name of it. The longer they go on, the harder it is to solve. So what impresses you about this move that just happened this week?
Cold cases are extremely difficult. I handled a number when I was a prosecutor. I handled them as a defense lawyer. As cases go on, people forget. Witnesses forget things. They forget what they saw. Things get lost. And so for a cold case to be brought, indicted, and charged someone with, especially a serious crime like this, means there must be some smoking gun. There had to have been some breakthrough in the evidence for them to look at the evidence, bring it to a grand jury, and ultimately indict an individual with 2 serious felonies.
As an attorney and someone who's looked over investigations, let's go back to when Sheriff Mattingly named Brooks Houck as the chief suspect in this case, but he's never been arrested. Did you find that to be an unusual move, that a law enforcement officer would come out and say, here's the guy we think did it, But then, so far to this day, nobody's been arrested except for Joseph Lawson.
Generally, the police do not name their prime suspect in an investigation because it's just that, it's an investigation. So that's an odd move typically. I know most officers that deal with it, they're dealing with homicides or serious cases, don't come right out and say who their prime suspect or prime target is. They gather the evidence, present it before a grand jury before making those claims public.
We last heard from the FBI October 2022 when they spent 5 days on the Houck family farm there, and they had been excavating a driveway in the area of a neighborhood. So as you see the next steps in this case, how do you see it playing out?
It's difficult to say without looking at the actual evidence, but that being said, the fact that the charge was not charged as murder, it charges criminal conspiracy to commit murder. So, it wouldn't be uncommon for plea deals to happen.
Searches have happened here before. So here is exactly what we know about this property. The 245-acre farm is located on Pascal Ballard Lane. That's right near the intersection of Loretta Road and Bardstown Road. It's about 9 miles south of downtown Bardstown. Rosemary Houck, Brooke Houck's mom, actually owns the property. Again, it's the last place Crystal Rodgers is known to be alive. Houck this morning, but it is not related to the Crystal Rodgers case. This photo was sent to us from a viewer showing deputies serving a warrant in Bardstown at a subdivision where Houck was working. According to court records, Houck was arrested on a bench warrant for failure to pay traffic citation fines. He was taken into custody and booked into the Nelson County Jail. The charge listed on the Nelson County Jail website reads non-payment of court costs, fees, or fines. According to court records, Houck owed $353. He was only in jail for a short period of time before he was bailed out.
So I found this article from last year in regards to Mr. Brooks Hawk. This guy, I tell you, he was trying to open up a daycare. And the reason why I said this guy is a trip is because of the location. The daycare is right across the street from Crystal Rodgers' mom, Sherry Ballard, where she owns a storage unit that's located right across the street from the potential location of this daycare he wants to open. So, talk about diabolical. You know that you're a suspect in this case. And Sherry's, Crystal's mom says that she believes Brooks killed her daughter. And a lot of people do. In my opinion, it looks very much like he is the person they're looking for. So why would you try to open up a daycare across the street from her mom's, business? That's just diabolical. Like I said, Crystal's mom, as well as some other town folk, were trying to have a petition signed to stop Brooks from opening up this daycare. And I believe that they were successful because I couldn't find anything that stated that he was able to open that daycare, which was, I don't believe this man should have a daycare. He should not be around any children, women, none of that. No way. So, that worked really well. But, Bardstown must be really small. Or this guy is just being really evil. So, I will definitely keep an eye on this case. I'm sure more is to come, especially with the arrest of Joseph Lawson. And if he will speak down the line. Hopefully he does. So, I will have more information when more information is available.